Hello, and now for our next lecture or next demo, we'll basically add some HTML documents inside our sidebar inside our area dash country component. So for to start, I'm gonna create a div with a class of main container. Then it's gonna display flex. It is a bootstrap class. And I'm gonna move this app sidebar inside the main container and save it. And then next, we're gonna create a div with a class of container fluid and then save it. Then let's also add another bootstrap class with layout and MT5 and MX5. Okay, that's wrong. Let me do it again. Okay, and then we paste that again, save it, and inside our layout class, we will create a row, div.row, and save it, and add a div with a class of column 6 for the bootstrap class. And for the contents of our div, we'll add h1 and then put countries on it. Okay, so um after that, we're also gonna add a div div with a column of 6, then div that contains the header tag. Let's create another header tag. Let's just basically still put date in here and time in here. Okay. Oh, so as you can see, this is basically still the home page, the default page. So we have to access it in area. Okay, so as you can see now, the page is um, reflecting the data or the HTML code that we created. And going to our CSS, I already tried to make this, but we'll start from the beginning without any CSS files. And then afterwards, we're gonna go to our CSS and create the CSS styles for our HTML code. So container dash fluid with a color of $5BC 0BE. Then we save it so that the text inside our HTML document will be matching. And then we're also gonna create a class, a CSS for our main container class, and then save it with a background color of white smoke, and then maximum height of 100% and height of and overflow of in the y-axis to be scroll. Okay, now after that, what we're going to do next is we'll insert more of the HTML documents in here. And after creating this date and time, we will add a HR line in here, or horizontal line in here after the div of the row. Okay, as you can see, after the div of the row. And then what we will do is we will just add a horizontal line on it, then save it. As you can see, the horizontal line is reflecting. And then we're also going to create a new div with a class of container with a bootstrap margin top of 5 and the padding at the y-axis of 2. And then we will create a table. Table class is equals to table bordered with a style of border color gray and text align center with a minimum width of one width of 100%. Okay. And then inside our table tag, um, oh wait, I still need to add overflow hidden. Okay, I'm just gonna add a semicolon in here. Okay, and then inside our table tag, we're gonna create a table head. Okay, this for our header of our table with a table row with a style of color which is white, and then inside our table row we're gonna create a th tag with a scope of column, and then style is equals to background color of number sign 3A506B, and it should be country name for the label. Then we save it. As you can see, the name of our table is now reflecting, and then after our table head we're gonna create a table body. Then we save it, and then we're just gonna add a style of text align center. Then we save it, and then inside our table body we're gonna create a table row tag, and then inside our table row tag we'll use the ng4 directive so that it will print out all of the names of our countries in our API, and then let items of my data to, then it's going to paginate so that it will create a pages if the data is too much for a single page, it's going to create another page until all of the data can be displayed. And then inside our paginate tag array, we're going to create a items per page, which is going to be count, and current page to be p. As you can see, it's experiencing some errors, but let's fix that later. For now, let's add another th tag with a scope of row, and then let's interpolate the items dot name. As you can remember, this is what we did before in our previous videos, that we tried to interpolate um the uh, uh, the variable and access and access the data inside an array. So going back to our TypeScript file wherein it's found in area dash country component dot ts, what we're going to do is we'll add the we will inject the services that we created, wherein it's the get data method from our services file, and then inside our area dash country component we will create a variable called my data 2, and with a type of region is equals to blank array, but we still don't have the class of regions. So what we will do is we will generate a class for our regions, and then here we need to stop the server first, and then what we're going to do is generate a class ng generate class regions. Then it's going to generate the class for the regions, and inside our regions class we're gonna declare variables, name any, region any, area any, independent any. And we save it, and then inside our component.ts, it's now basically imported after doing the quick fix. And um, after that, we just need to inject the service. So what we're going to do is we will create a constructor and then inject our service, private service, my my data service, and then we'll save that. Then after injecting it, we will create a ng on in it. Then this dot service dot get data dot subscribe data any, and then it's gonna store this JSON data into the my data2 array. And then as we save it, we will try to run it again, ng serve. It basically okay, we still have an error here in our HTML um, component. So what we're going to do is we will declare this count and p variable. So in our TypeScript file, what we're going to do is we will declare initialize the count variable with a type of any. For me, I'm gonna make it 8 so that it will only display 8 rows in our table. And then for the p, or p is stands for pages, so I'll display one page at a time. Then I will save that. Then now, after our server is fixed or it compiled successfully, it's now going to display some data that came from our API, but it's still lacking um, the the pagination that we want to create. So what we're going to do is um, after our table, after our table, and after our div with a class of container, we'll also create another div with a class of text and then it's gonna be pagination controls page change is equals to p, and then is equals to event. Then we'll save it. It's okay, we had a mistake there. The column should be there. Then we'll save it. Okay, I think there is we're in the default page if we didn't specify in our path. So as you can see, we now have the pagination for it. So if I click this, it's gonna proceed to the next page until it displays everything inside our API. Okay, that's just basically what the pagination is. And then for an idea, basically you still have to install the pagination module here in Angular, wherein the the module is called ngx pagination module, and you should import it in the imports array. As you can see in here in the app.module.ts, here is the import for the pagination module, and here is the imports the pagination module in our imports array. Um, but for now, let's not focus on the pagination because it's not part of this lecture. What we're focusing here right now is the router outlet that we should achieve um, to display different contents from our API by clicking these buttons. Okay, so now the button is still not working because we didn't still put something on it. So what we're going to do is, as you can see that the data is now displaying, we're now gonna add some uh, router link for these buttons. So let's go to our sidebar component dot html, and then in our buttons, as you can see, we created a router link earlier, wherein what we'll do here, we will just need to specify the path that we used, or the path name we created for our component. So in here, it's gonna be name, and in here, it's gonna be area, and in here, it's going to be region. Okay. So if I click the name, it's gonna show me the name in the URL, and the area, it's gonna be like that, and the region is also gonna be like that. Okay. So this just basically what's the purpose of this router outlet. But if I remove that and save it, I can't access the path anymore because um, the router outlet plays an important role for giving the path in a specific function. Like for example, if we put that back and then go back to our sidebar, if there's no router outlet and we still put this router link slash name, it's basically not gonna give us something because in our app.component.html, we didn't expose any components in here, wherein it's a it's a rule for the Angular to basically tell the Angular framework that you want to expose some components. That's why we use the app dash home before, like for example home, for example area dash country, for example. But now because we learned about the routing here in Angular, we're mainly gonna use the router outlet for a much easier development. And then here in our name country, we're just gonna basically copy this code in here in our area.country and add it in here and save it. And also the TypeScript code that we have in here so that we won't like have a hard time in creating or generating a new page for the data. Then afterwards, we're just gonna basically import this and then also this. Okay. Then after importing it now, we won't have any problems, but basically in our name dot country, it should be just name. Where in our area country, it should be the size of the area. What we're going to do is in our items that name in the line 27, we're just gonna change this to area and save it. Okay, so now as you can see, the area is showing, but it's still called country name. So what we're going to do is we'll change this to country area. Okay, then we'll save that. But as you can see, this table doesn't like really have a actual purpose, but basically this is only for the demonstration purposes for the um, routing in Angular, and also to give you an idea on um, how the Angular applies the pagination, and also for the tables here in Angular, and and how to create some components in Angular, which is very versatile. But I'm still lacking something here. As you can see, we also have the date and time in here that we added, but I forgot to add it earlier. So now we're gonna go back to our TypeScript file and create a function or a variable in here called, let's say, current date is equals to new date. Oh, that's wrong. Date. Okay, and we will save that. Okay, and going back to our HTML file, inside the date and time, we're gonna interpolate the current date and pipe it with a format of year, month, and day. Then save it. As you can see, it is reflecting, and we just need to have had a colon there. Okay. And for the time, we're also going to interpolate the current data that we created earlier. Current data with a date format of hour, minute, and A. So as you can see, this A means like PM or AM. So it's basically a pipe or a parsing here in Angular. Then same goes to the region. Here in our region, we're just gonna copy all of this, all of the HTML file, and then save it here and change the title in here that could be country region. And as you can see, we're still experiencing some errors wherein we can just like basically copy and paste this here in our region country component.ts, and then we're just gonna import this, all of this. Okay, add all missing imports, and then we're gonna save this. And we still don't have the current date here. Oh, this should be current date so that there's no confusion. And in here, we're just gonna change that to current date. Just copy this, all of it again, and then paste this. Okay, and then in here, copy the current date, paste it here in the region so that we won't spend a lot of time in editing this HTML. Then going back to the area.county.html, we will save this. We have an error in line 12 of current date, current date. We have an error at area-country.component.html. Okay, it says in here. So basically what we're going to do is we just compare that. Let's go back in here, new date. Okay, we just need to save this TypeScript file. And as you can see in our country area, we're also having the time, but we still don't have the CSS file in here. In the name country, we're lacking the date and time, so we're gonna go back to the name and country, then paste the code in here for our date and time, name for the country, and in here paste it. And then in here we just copy the current date, or maybe you can type it in if you want, but for me I'm just gonna copy and paste it. Okay, so as you can see now, it's like reflecting already. And for the CSS files, what we're going to do is we just basically copy this and paste it in here. Okay, and then in our region, we just paste it there again. Okay, and now as you can see, it's still not finished because the country name is still not centered. So what we're going to do is we will add more CSS to it. Then let's check first um for the name. Maybe we can just basically, let's go to the area country. Okay, in here can just like basically add a class in here with text to be at center, then check if it works. Okay, now um the title for the table is now centered. So what we're going to do is also we're gonna do that for our other component. So it's going to be class is equals to text center, space it, checking the name country. Okay, And then in the region, class is equals to text dash center. And then we save it. Okay. So now as you can see, the router outlet works perfectly. If we click our buttons, it's redirecting us to a certain page with a certain data that we called or we stored in our variable because we use the API to get some data from our web. Then here in the region is also gonna be, oh, it's still showing the area, sorry. So I'm just gonna change this to region. Okay, now it's showing the regions. As you can see, it's now regions. Okay, so the routing module basically works because we declared the path for the area country component to be area, and if I'm gonna click the button here in the area country, it's gonna have a URL that has a slash area, and after that, in our sidebar, which is basically a sidebar component that we're gonna use from in every page, we just created a router link in here that we basically just gave the path that if we click this button, it will go to this path. So basically, every time I click name, it's gonna go to the name page or the country name table. And if I click area, it's gonna go to our country area. And if I click region, it's gonna go to our um, region area. Okay, and that's all for the router outlet. Thank you, and see you in the next lectures.